I'm gonna ask a really stupid and hopefully not offensive question. I assume that you're the one singing the songs. Is that the case, or is it somebody else who is singing? My mind is going weird places because your voice, your speaking voice, is not what I imagined. I figured listening to these songs, it's like some like northeastern Yahoo whatever who found his way down to Athens, is hanging out with these people, and is singing these odd lyrics about like, is this a commercial? Wait, no, it's not a commercial. It's a it's commentary on daily life sort of stuff.
Well, I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't start doing anything with my voice until my late 40s. So it's as weird as it is for anybody to hear themselves played back on recording. It's really weird for me.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
We should go back and you should tell us a little bit about your Athens kind of origin.
History.
Yeah, because I've known of you for, I don't know, 20 some years as a
Right.
guy who recorded shows and as a fan, as a, collector of all E6 stuff over the past whatever 25 years.
Mhm.
Your name would always come up when I would get a bootleg from a friend. I wasn't getting it from you, but something
Right.
you had recorded had found its way up to Iowa, whether on a CDR or a cassette or something like that. So then I thought it was so cool that so many years later, all of a sudden the tide had turned and you're the one making records. So tell us
Yeah.
about all of that.
Yeah, well, I played guitar in high school and college, and I think it's probably fair to say that I was focused on jam band music at that time. I was playing guitar mostly just in the jazz band at college and got into a car wreck. I was not driving, but I broke a collarbone and was in a brace. I don't remember how many weeks, but was not able to play guitar. And I had been sort of frustrated by not being able to play like the guitarists I was listening to and just sort of put it away, just didn't pick it back up after the injury healed. At the same time, me and my roommates would dub cassettes of live recordings that each other had, and then started trading cassettes through the mail with people. There used to be magazines for deadheads that had classifieds in the back, and you could trade your list of tapes with someone else. The time I moved to Atlanta in 1999, some friends who were actually making recordings themselves got me into that, loaned me some gear. One buddy sold me some gear cheaply, basically all but giving it to me, and started making my own recordings. And within a couple years, I started getting into some bands in Athens and driving up first once a week, then a couple times a week, until it got, to be several times a week and really sort of out of hand.
How much
Um,
of a drive was it?
you could do it in an hour if nothing went wrong. And of course, things do go wrong, especially leaving Atlanta heading to Athens in rush hour.
I've done that drive a couple of times, and it ain't nice.
Yeah, and it's I made a lot of friends in Athens, through attending shows. My job in Atlanta went away, and I didn't have anything timely there anymore. So that's when I moved to Athens, and that was 2009. And so all this time I had been recording bands, posting them on my website. In 2020, when COVID started and all the clubs shut down, it was a really big adjustment for me to not go out and record shows. And at some point after I ran out of all the streaming TV that I could watch, I started messing with a synth on somebody else's recording I had been mixing. I had never played synths before, and so not knowing how to play them, that was fun and sort of freeing. One of the things that had gotten me to give up guitar when I did was that I tended to play the same things for years, sort of like a muscle memory thing. So messing around with synthesizers, I didn't have any technique. I didn't know scales. I knew enough theory that if I think about a chord, it makes sense, but I can't just put my hands on it like a keyboard player can. And from there, wrote my first songs. Is I never did that, before I quit playing.
It
And
broke you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I had never done any singing at all, and I have thought many times since we were talking about the vocals earlier, I don't particularly like singing. I've thought since, maybe I should have just found someone to sing these songs for me in the first place.
No.
But yeah, I mean, there is something, my voice is different than most voices you hear on a record, and all of making music there's a big mental thing going on, but it's a mental thing for me to both accept that, hey, this is sort of a unique vocal sound, and also to live through the parts that make me cringe. A friend said that I sound like someone when I'm singing, and I kind of dug that. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, you sound very approachable. You sound like it's someone that you know. And I'm not saying that you sound like someone you know as in someone who's doing a bad job at karaoke. I don't think that's what he means. Like you sound like someone who you could spend, 3 hours drinking a beer with, and you're
Right.
It's kind of funny just hearing all you talking about this, because to my ear, maybe it says more about the kind of vocalist that I'm listening to, or my own sensitivities about my own voice. But your voice sounds very, I guess, quote unquote, normal to me. It just, I don't know, it just sounds like a voice. I think it does have some of that quality Matthew said, where it's like, this is somebody I could see myself having a beer or just hanging out with at a barbecue or whatever and having a conversation with. But it doesn't feel like extraordinarily weird or different, or it doesn't stand out.
Gotcha.
No, I think you're just being hypercritical of yourself, which we all do.
Middle-aged love, decent credit scores. Middle-aged love, go to a big box store. Middle-aged love, meet me at the dog park. Middle-aged love, could there be a spark? Middle-aged love, we were shaped by loss. Middle-aged love, pre-existing clause. Middle-aged love, I use a breathing machine. Middle-aged love, I'm driving records clean.
My process is that I record things alone at first, even if I later get people to replace parts that I made on my demo. But I work slowly, and these songs take a few weeks sometimes to get recorded, with me thinking up a new part randomly and running over and recording it. And so there are lots of little layers of things that aren't necessarily the main feature at any point in a song. But I do like to make things dense and sort of reward repeated listens like that.
Yeah, I mean, it comes off as, at least initially, more sort of spontaneous, but it's clearly not as you listen to it more and more. So kudos in that regard.
Thank you.
It's deceptively simple, I guess, is the way. There's more going on there than what maybe appears when you are just listening to something very, very casually. But as you get a little bit more like, oh wait, this is kind of hooky, maybe I'll listen to this a couple more times, like, oh wait, that's what this song is about.
And I think it's cool that you kind of like came into making music having recorded so much music already and seeing so many shows and taking in so many influences, that when you came to make your own music, do you feel like it was indebtedly you? Tell us a little bit about how many shows you think you've probably recorded over the years.
Oh, wow. Unfortunately, I lost a large portion of my catalog. So before I did that, I'd be able to actually say, within reason how many. But just to give you an example, when my website went down, there were over 1,000, and of course, to me, a show is one set, and I may have gone to see the second band out of 4 on a bill. So we're not talking like a 4-hour concert, but anywhere from 40 minutes to 80 minutes is mostly what I recorded. There were 1,000 shows on the website when it went down, and it was just a fraction of what I recorded, because most bands that I recorded more than once, I didn't tend to feature again and again on the website, unless it was a different tour, or they were, you know what I mean, unless the bulk of the set was different. So there was bands that would, basically always play the same show, but I'd see that and record that 5 times in a year. Think of it on that scale. You can see how many, it was a lot, and it went on for 20 years.
Yeah. So how do you feel like that influenced, when you started to make your own music? Like, what do you, were you drawing from a lot from influences, or were you just kind of pulling straight from your heart or your friends around you, or?
I don't know if it's the same way for other people. My music never comes out the way that when I first start hearing a song in my head, and then when it's done, they're two different things. But I kind of feel like it's just a conglomeration of all the stuff I heard from birth to when I started making music. And again, that was a lot later than most people do. I feel like I got a few decades of listening under my belt before I started writing, in comparison to, I think most folks start in their teens or whatever. So, I can't really point to specifics, but to me at least, and what I'm hearing when these songs are going on in my head, it feels like just a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this from all the stuff that was going on, and more so in the younger part of in the 80s. And to me, the 80s radio had, I know it was all lumped into top 40, but even amongst those things on top 40 radio, I felt like there was really a lot of variation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got that vibe from listening to the new EP. I was like, that's why I kind of wanted to ask a little bit, because it seemed like music, your whatever the topics or whatever kind of midlife things, but the music seemed very youthful, of like, growing up in the 80s, I guess.
There's a Midnight Star reference in one of the tracks. Do you guys know that song, No Parking on the Dance Floor? I don't think it was really regional. It was a hit in the early 80s that was very particularly a hit in skating rinks. They had a vocoder. It was it was a funk thing. They weren't Princey, but their popularity was sort of on the same vibe that Prince was, if that makes any sense.
I'm gonna have to look this song up. What was the name of the song again?
The band is called Midnight Star, and their 2 hits were No Parking on the Dance Floor and Freakazoid.
Okay.
If it makes
They had vocoders and everything.
If it makes you feel better, my best friend in high school had the single.
Okay.
I've heard it many, many times.
Okay.
Hanging out in the parking lot of the McDonald's and the Dairy Queen.
Gotcha. Was this by the South by any chance?
It was not. It was Indiana. So
Okay.
I mean, kind of. I mean, Indiana's sort of de facto South, even though it's technically North, but it's a very Southern vibe. So
yeah, I mean, there is a video for it, but I don't remember it ever being on MTV. And I mean, everybody that I went to school with knew it, but I have, since I have not talked to a lot of people who heard that song growing up. So.
Well, we'll have to play it on the podcast here, so people who haven't heard it will.
Yeah.
Excuse me, madam. You're standing still in a no parking zone. If you don't get a move on that body, I'll be forced to give you a ticket. So get with it.
There's a reference to that, but the album's not real funky.
No. And that's the thing. Well, maybe it's a tenuous connection, but something that all of these songs, again, we were talking earlier about me getting started in this with the synthesizer. I sort of retrofit a musical idea into what I was doing, in that I kind of think of it as if synthesizers and distorted guitars had not diverged from mainstream rock. And I guess we can probably blame the prog guys for messing it up for popular music. But I don't know. I mean, the song that I come back to is Edgar Winter's Frankenstein. You know, that balance of synth and rock and roll guitar.
Yeah.
And so in a way that, you know, my sound in my head is sort of like, well, what if synth didn't split off to, you know, synth pop and funk and R&B, but stayed present in things that, and I'm not, what if Boston had more, had the Moogs and stuff like that going on? I'd have a better answer or example than Boston if I had thought about this part in advance. So that's a little, that's where I'm seeing the connection, because, obviously the synths were huge in the 80s.
I love that Boston reference though, because the amount of layering of those electric guitars on that first Boston record, which I know is recorded on a 16 track, they almost sound like synthetic guitars. They sound so cool, so interesting, the layers and the layers and the layers. I've been talking a lot about Boston lately to people, so it's nice that you bring that up as a reference point. Transmitting, we have Kelly with the E6 news. Do we have an update on a brand new Olivia Tremor Control record? Or are we disappointed again this month?
Hi, Patrick. I knew you were going to ask that. And, I don't have an official update, but you're just going to have to pay attention to the Victrola rotor oilmen, see what they have to say about any upcoming news.
Ooh, a clue. Thank you for the clue. All right, everybody start searching for that clue. You might have to rewind this podcast back so you caught it. So Kelly's going to be here talking about some upcoming releases, tour dates. What's going on in the E6 world?
Well, let's do a little February recap. I want to just remind everybody that the Tammy Shine LP came out February 20th on Happy Birthday to Me Records. So check that out if you're interested in what Tammy's got going on. She just did a little West Coast tour for the album release, and there's going to be probably more dates added this spring. Definitely some East Coast dates, including an appearance at the Kindercore 30th anniversary party that's happening in Athens from May 7th through 9th. Also at that festival will be Elf Power and Dressy Bessie. And then, some of our Elephant Six related friends. Heather McIntosh plays in a band called Japan Cakes. They will be playing for the first time in probably 20 plus years. John Fernandez is doing a set with a trio. Yeah, lots of great kind of Elephant Six connected. Robbie Cucciaro plays in the band Dog Person, which is also playing. So yeah, you'll see some of our Elephant Six family on the stage over those 3 days.
Excellent. That'll be really fun. What else is cooking this spring?
Well, I want to also mention the reissue that came out at the end of February, on February 27th. The Sixth Great Lake Up the Country LP got a reissue on Dust and Memory label out of Spain. They're the same label that also recently reissued the Everything is Green LP. It's great to see it back in print. And for March, I've got one tour date to announce. Garment District is playing a show in Pittsburgh on March 7th. And Garment District has been working on some new recordings, so hopefully we'll have some more news from Garment District later this year. And coming this summer, there's going to be some Giant Day tour dates on the West Coast and a little bit in the Midwest. Those haven't been announced yet, but keep an eye out. And one last bit of news I've got is we've been teasing this for a while now, but the reissue of the Black Swan Network singles club that was on Happy Happy Birthday to Me. We have an official street date now, May 8th, and the pre-order is up on the Happy Happy Birthday to Me website. It's going to be a reissue expanded to a 12-inch with bonus tracks. Mike has also put together some deluxe packages with some screen printed items and all sorts of goodies. So check that out if you're interested. Oh, and March is also the 30th anniversary of On Avery Island, which came out March 26, 1996. So happy 30th anniversary to Neutral Milk Hotel and On Avery Island.
If that doesn't make me feel old, I do not know what will. That's amazing. That's so cool. Over the course of the next few years, that just means lots of great E6 releases will be celebrating 25 and 30-year anniversaries.
Yep, there's at least one more off the top of my head that has a big 30th anniversary this year. So that's in the fall. We'll talk about that later.
That's exciting. Well, thank you so much. As always, everybody can order their favorite E6 releases from the Elephant Six headquarters. Thank you, Kelly, for streaming in the news for this month. And as always, check out elephant6.com. And we're excited about what's to come in 2026.
Thank you, Patrick.
This EP is sort of a hodgepodge. The single In a Movie is an outtake from an as yet unreleased LP that is actually also unannounced LP. And the band is Jay Gonzalez played either keyboard, guitar, or additional vocals, depending on the song. On this particular song, he plays lead guitar. Kevin Lane plays rhythm guitar. Brandon Reynolds plays bass. Matt Lane plays drums, and Jason Neesmith adds backing vocals.
Awesome.
Now, the other songs on the EP, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe 2 of the other songs are just me completely. And the last one, Jay contributes some vocals as well, but otherwise it's just me. And,
yeah, you've been working with Jay Gonzalez a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, he and Jason Neesmith can both, we're going back to what we were talking about, my vocals earlier. I guess I'm a baritone. I actually haven't charted it out, and I'm not a person who knows those kind of things, but that's what I'm guessing. Those guys can sing in that higher vocal range that
yes
compliments me really well, I think, or would compliment anyone. Honestly, they're both incredible musicians. I layer my vocals to a degree, but I can only go so high, and it's not very high. So yeah, and obviously, being a member of the Drive By Truckers, Jay's a great guitarist and keyboardist too. So yeah, just kind of if I need one of those things, he's usually the first person I think of. And sometimes I've sent him a track without telling him what instrument it needs, and just said, "Hey man, can you listen to this and think about what you can add to it?" And he'll send me back several things.
Hell yeah. I loved that last that split single that you guys put out, and I still have my bag of bubble gum.
Oh, great. We had a great time with that. I texted him one night and I said, I've had the dumbest promotion idea anybody has ever had. Let's get some.
Loved it.
I said, let's get some branded bubblegum. And of course, within 10 minutes, we had to agreed that we were going to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff. What are your plans with this EP once it comes out? Are you gonna dive into the stage or
No, and I don't play live at all. I did play like I said, I was in the jazz band in college, played live back then, played in some rock bands before I had that wreck. But by the time I got back into this, I have a whole long list of reasons why I can't or won't play live. Shaky, arthritis-y hands. The bigger reasoning for all of it is that after, making those live recordings for so long, it's mostly a technical role and no creativity involved. So when I got into making my own records, I was like, wow, I can put an echo on something now. I can double a vocal with a chorus or something like that. So all of those creative things that you can't do or can't do in the same way on a stage are really what draws me to it.
Yeah, and I think what's so surprising to me about how long you waited before you started making your own music is how like these songs are not dialed like phoned in. These songs are full experiences from beginning to end that are so fleshed out.
Don't read the comments when I post me and you. The haters won't believe that it's true. Some folks don't understand what honest love can do. Who cares if they approve of me and you? It's true, we come from different backgrounds. I'm majoring, hanging around. People might say we're nothing alike, but it's something good that we found. People watch too much TV. They think they know all about me. But all I do is be good to you. They can keep their 2 cents for free. Don't read the comments when I post me and you. The haters won't believe that it's true. Some folks don't understand what honest love can do. Who cares if they approve of me and you?
I mean, I had no idea that any of this was possible at all. I had never, thinking back on it, I guess I have always made up melodies in my head and just assumed everyone else did. But, or when I heard a song on the radio, I would sometimes hear a harmony part in my head that was not on that record, but I didn't really think about it or think about doing anything with it. Didn't ever particularly have a lyric idea that I felt like I wanted to express. Again, it was just it was really like a big life change to stop, like all at once, stop going out to see live music. It was such an adjustment that when shows started happening again, I had really gotten in this home recording mode, and I don't go out very much at all. So it was, I had to relearn how to exist at home and
Yeah.
what to do with myself when there weren't a group of people with instruments on a stage in front of me.
were you living by yourself?
Yep.
Was COVID a lonely time for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been super plugged in on the internet, so I'm obviously in touch with all my friends, but I was pretty concerned about COVID, and I have some underlying health issues, and of course, at the time it was like, you're gonna die. So, I was definitely taking it seriously. My first album was all made during that time, and all of the guest musicians, and I think I had 35 players on that one. Most of those people were chosen by the fact that they were able to record themselves at home. And the few people that I did record here during that time, like Robert Schneider played bass from my front porch with a long cable running inside the apartment. And in fact, he still wore a mask so I would feel the most comfortable I could.
That's amazing.
I'd have singers come over and record, and I would actually go outside while they recorded inside the apartment. And I would just have an iPad, to control the software. I internalized the news at the time that, like, oh God, if you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being careful
Yeah.
in that situation. That was a very scary time. So thank God it's become such a less scary time now.
Yeah, and I caught it early this year, and I was like, okay, that was nothing. And I realized the difference between catching it in 2025 and catching it in 2020 is big. Yeah, and I hate to be the guy, well, look at the silver lining, but I found this thing about myself that I may not have ever known, may not have known for a few more years, but that's that I could create something, and that's a big. I don't want to say a gift like, oh, you've been given this talent, but to be able to work that part of your brain, especially after having not done it, it is a gift.
I think that's so beautiful that, like I think a lot of people got into that time period and were just they didn't know what to do with themselves and they were not creative. They were down, they were sad, they were, like you were saying, binging TV. Uh,
Yeah.
that you found that something blossoming in your soul and then put it out in the world is pretty darn amazing.
Let me go with you to the big box store. Find everything that you've been looking for. I wanna go everywhere that I can with you, even if it's just the big box store. We can have a date on Friday night. I know you like the downtown lights, but Sunday afternoon a minivan and you is all I need to feel just right. Let me go with you to the big box store. Find everything that you've been looking for. I wanna go everywhere that I can with you, even if it's just the big box store.
Now, you had mentioned earlier that you had never really written lyrics, which is surprising to me again, because especially on this release, like everything is so thematically tied together. It feels like it's being given to us by someone who's an old hand at making conceptual art, but you're fairly new to it. What was the theme that you were shooting for this EP?
So let me back up a little bit to my first LP, and it was fairly scattershot genre wise. I didn't know what I wanted to do. One of the things that I did on that was called Songs Like This, and it was a power pop song that Andrew Rieger sang on with me. I liked the whole album, but after it was done, I was like, that's not only do I like that one the most, but that's what I want to do more of. And not even necessarily just power pop, but love songs. And I decided that
Gotcha.
as much as if you take, I don't know if it's still this way, but in my era, if you took guitar lessons, you were going to learn to play a 12-bar blues. I started looking at it like the love song, the form isn't as specific as a 12-bar blues, but there's some things you do. You generally have some hope in there, even if it's a breakup song. There's sort of some guardrails. And I found that easier to write love songs or love adjacent songs because it was there was a little bit of a framework, you know what I mean? Versus otherwise I could write about anything in the world, and that's sort of like, wow, there's a blank page in front of me.
Right, a little daunting.
Yeah. So this gives me like, and honestly, the LP that I mentioned is all love songs. There's 14 of them, I believe. The LP that I'm working on right now, it's all love songs. I just figure that until I can't, that's what I'll do. It's a thing that people have done for hundreds of years, predating rock and roll. And
Yeah.
but it's certainly a huge tradition in rock and roll, and something I like, that I have a lot of fun with.
I love it. I loved the first album, but yeah, I mean, if this EP is a glimpse of what's coming in the next LP, yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, what happened is that the LP was delayed for various reasons, of course, but I kept working on new stuff. I just got frustrated, and I was like, well, whatever happens with this LP, I have learned, the LP is going to be announced for early next year, so it's going to be about 4 years since almost 4 years between my first two albums. So I decided I don't want to do that again. I'm going to go ahead and come up, put something together for the next release and get it in the manufacturing queue. And to me, for my age, it's not real if it's not manufactured on a piece of plastic, unfortunately.
Right.
So I just was like, well, I don't know if this EP turned into an EP. I said, I don't know if this EP will come out first, if the LP will come out first, but I've got the songs and they're done, and let me prep it. And so the way that it worked is that the EP came out first, but they were, like I said, one song was left over from the LP, and the other was just some things I had written since then. And it's not doing me any good sitting on my hard drive. So I started late, so I want to release as much as it makes sense to release.
Right.
Yeah, isn't that the strange thing about releasing music now? It's like you could instantly put it out if you wanted to, but because people are our age, and I mean, I won't speak for everybody on this phone call, but we're all kind of the same age, and we all love physical media. And now if we want to put something out on record, it kind of takes longer than it ever has before.
Yeah.
Like you have that thing where it's like, oh, I could write this one more song and just get it on this record quick, or you know what I mean? So there's that constant like push and pull of like, when is it done? You know what I mean? So I also kind of love that, like, I don't know, every single record I think I've ever made, I've probably written like that one last song, that one that just barely made the cut time-wise, and that one usually ends up being the one that you like the most or something.
Yeah. I mix all my own stuff, and one of the other reasons I started doing this was to have something to practice mixing on. I've always enjoyed tinkering with mixes, but you got to do a lot of it to get good. And the same thing when the club shut down. I had been doing some multi-track recording of live shows, and I had a few things to mix to practice on, but those ran out. And I was thinking, well, if I write a little song, then I've got something to practice with. I actually had the LP mixed, had it mastered by someone else, and I wasn't totally happy with my mixes before mastering, but I had gotten bogged down, and I was like, well, I think they're good. I don't know. And so it got mastered, and then wasn't able to get it in manufacturing right away, basically funding. And in the time that I was waiting, I decided, I can't live with these. I love these songs. I can't live with the mixes. I remixed the whole album and had it mastered again. So, and I'm glad I did. Again, even since then, I have improved in mixing. And if I were to mix it today, it would sound better, but it definitely improved it from that first version. So
George Lucas yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least it wasn't released already.
Yeah. You got to it before you put it out. It's not like you came back 20 years later. So.
Yeah.
You didn't pull it from mastering and then add some more guitar and then do it again, or?
I don't think no, I didn't.
Did Han shoot first?
Hey, I would love at some point to do an E6. You know, like yesterday, I was scrounging around my basement looking for some things, and I found a few E6 like bootlegs.
Uh-huh.
And I would love for you to come on sometime and make a compilation of E6 recordings that you've made over, you know, whatever your years of recording shows of like some of your favorite recordings and talk about the shows if you have remembrance of them, because I think that was, I mean, again, like I said, that was my introduction to you years ago, was just your name as somebody who had, you know, kind of a historian in that.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've probably got a better collection of that stuff than I do, because I had a hard drive failure and a cloud drive issue.
Oh wow.
And basically, what I recorded from 1999 until 2007, I don't have.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Now, a lot of that, anybody that wanted copies of any of that, you know, in rare instance, somebody would ask me not to share something, but otherwise, anytime I could get somebody to listen to it, I did, you know what I mean? So there are people who do have copies of things, but unfortunately, it's not all in a centralized place like it was before that.
Yeah, so you lost like the whole Black Foliage era and everything, like Apples and Stereo after her Wallpaper Reverie is gone then, huh?
Yeah, there was a number of circulatory system from like 2003 era, something like that, were gone. Some Sunshine Fix. Again, I feel like the Elephant Six, I don't think there was anything there that several people didn't get a copy of.
Sure.
Luckily, there was lots of other bands, you know what I mean, you know, non-Elephant Six stuff that just not going to exist anymore, unfortunately. But that is the way of digital data, unfortunately. Or the possible, you know, this could be you kind of scenario.
It's very sad to me as a person who just likes history and stuff. And I've always held you in a very high regard of doing those shows and constantly seeing your name over and over and over again. To me, you were kind of like an Athens legend, you know, like I think the first time I ever was in Athens and played a show would have been in like maybe 2004 at the Happy Birthday to Me Pop Fest.
Uh-huh.
and and I saw you there like recording stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's him, you know, like you were kind of a little rock star
Nice.
in my mind. So that's very sad that all that stuff got lost, but it's a testament to you as a creative, you know, like you saying like you didn't find your like musical voice or whatever, you didn't even, you know, like pursue it until you're middle-aged or whatever. But I think that recording shows and stuff like that is very creative, and it's the same thing. It's like making something or capturing something that wasn't in the world before. You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's you've got it, and it's so cool that now you're like mixing records and tinkering with things, and you know, kind of the opposite of capturing a live show. You're really like honing in on what you're doing. I think it's really cool, and a very cool evolution.
Right on. And, you know, it's something I don't know that I made clear. We were talking earlier about all the guests on my album. Those were almost every single one. Those were all people whose acts that I used to record when I recorded live shows. So I sort of turned it around and I was like, hey, you know, you know, most of them were people that I knew pretty well and become friends with. But yeah, they, you know, so that was neat for me. I have a bunch of people on my album that, in particular, Danny Hutchins from Bloodkin, I had been seeing since 1994, and so I recorded his band over 30 times. So you know, having people like that on my album and Robert Schneider, who, you know what I mean, is just mind blowing for me, and it's a huge honor.
Well, I know on the first LP you had the Campbell sisters on there as well.
Yeah.
Are they coming back for anything in the future?
I don't have anything planned with them. So the lineup for the upcoming LP was sort of a reaction, sort of going the other way. After all those guests on the first album meant every song is a different band.
Yeah.
So I decided for this album, I wanted it's like, let's pretend it's an actual band, that we're a band who goes out and plays shows, even though we don't. So the instruments are the same on the whole record. And of course I sing the lead vocals on the whole thing, but the only variation in the artists on the upcoming record is the guest vocalists. And
Okay.
and for that, I've got Andrew Rieger again, Robert Schneider sings some again. I'm gonna draw a blank. And Jason Neesmith sings on over half of the album. We went and did a whole day at Chase Park where he both engineered and was the talent on the other side of the mic as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And those are three of my favorite singers and recording artists. So it's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that you can't beat those guys. Out of nowhere, let me tell you guys an interesting anecdote. Then you may find it's not relevant and cut it out. But one of the first times that I recorded Robert singing for one of my records, we were layering his vocals, and on each take he would move his body position relative to the mic a little bit. Each take was a different Robert like a group of Roberts in a semicircle around the mic. And before each take, he would say, "Now I'm going to sing like so and so," and he would, they were all mostly just oohs and ahs, but he would sort of shape them like, I don't remember who they were, maybe like David Gilmour one time, and then
I was
somebody
going to
else.
say Roger Waters, but yeah, that's
And I think he did one like Mike Mill. I don't know. It was amazing to me. And they, tonally wise, they were different. And they, he explained to me how they would blend to give a bigger sound. But I thought that was really neat and something, an example of the kind of thing I learned from this side of it.
I can't wait to hear that.
I had a question about the lyrical content. I mean,
Okay.
I heard the first song, Middle Aged Love. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a funny song that is also catchy, makes you tap your toes and all that. And I just figured, well, this is just sort of like the intro to the rest of what this recording has. And it's like, it's just listening to the record, it felt like there was a definite theme. I was just kind of curious what sort of things you were thinking about when you were writing these songs.
I don't want to make it sound like they're manufactured, but on a certain level, I'm thinking, okay, I need a new song. What new angle can I come up with to write a love song about? And there's overlap and variation when you come at it like that. I have found that I have to start the song from the lyrics. I have not once been able to fit existing music over some lyrics. You know what I mean? So I think of the lyrics, honestly, most of the time when I'm about to drift off to sleep and type them into my phone, if they stick with me enough that the next morning I go, oh yeah, I put some lyrics in my phone last night, let me look at them, that's a good sign. because a lot of times I don't find them for weeks, which means there was probably not much there anyway. There's sort of a tipping point where I've got enough lines written into my phone that I'm like, okay, this is a viable song. I'm not done, but I have enough that I know I will be able to finish it. Somewhere in there, I'm singing it in my brain, and at that point, once the vocal melody begins to materialize, I sing that into the voice recorder. Again, usually in bed. And part of just the style I'm writing in means that vocal melody pretty much dictates everything else. The chord progression and all that is in my head and done before I actually, start writing anything other than the lyrics down.
It's just, yeah, it's interesting because most people I've encountered do it the reverse, but whatever works for you.
I have tried, because I was like, I've got this cool guitar riff or this neat little synth thing, and not never say never, but so far it hasn't ever worked out for me to do it that way.
I know as a middle-aged male, a lot of the themes, a lot of the lines sort of spoke to me and resonated with me. I'm just kind of curious what kind of things are going on in your mind. I mean, I'm a 53-year-old male who recently separated from his wife, and like just hearing things like the lyrics to Middle-Aged Love, like, yeah, sounds like a snapshot of grab a day from my life. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what kind of things you were thinking about.
Well, I mean, I'm single and don't really do a lot of dating, but a couple years ago, my best friend convinced me, for better or for worse, to to sign on a couple dating apps. That hasn't been fruitful for anything other than I haven't specifically drawn songs from that, but it just sort of brings that whole mindset to the front of, hey, they're actually, they're not really represented in song so much, but there are a lot of people in their 50s who are out there looking for somebody.
It's like a
And
cynical positivity, I guess.
yeah,
There is something hopeful about it, but it's also like recognizing, like, okay, this is a little different and weird.
right. So I was, that's, again, I guess this is also cynical, but that's something I can exploit when I'm looking for an angle to write a song. So
You know what I have to say is interesting, gentlemen, that we've talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but we've talked now about dating apps multiple times on this podcast because
We have
we had a musical connection come together.
Jean Guillaume and Kate.
Yeah, up in Canada, they met each other on a dating app because they both liked Of Montreal or something. So there is that hope.
Meanwhile, I'm still thinking about the Boston talk from earlier in this conversation.
I'm going to pull those records up later because it's been a while for me.
Maybe that's the reason that we're all singles. We're more concerned about Boston than the guitar tone on the Boston debut record.
But the Rockman.
But I mean, it's it is more than a feeling when you are middle-aged
Jesus.
and you're searching for something. But that's interesting that, I think it's cool that you're, like with your musical, like when you start making records or whatever, it's like your friend was like, oh, you should do this, and that you did it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it shows that, a what have you got to lose attitude, which I think you have to have kind of as an artist and
Yep.
and as a middle-aged man looking for love, if you want to look for love or whatever.
Yep.
So I do think that it's kind of beautiful that you even attempted it or still are attempting it or whatever. So
Yeah.
inspiring. You can do it too, folks.
I don't know. I'm just still thinking about how Tom Scholl's the guy that's behind Boston, all that. He was an engineer who worked for a friend of mine's father at Polaroid before Boston really took off, and he remembers when Tom like came in and said, "Hey guys, sorry, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to focus more on rock and roll in my band, this band Boston." And I had this really amazing conversation with my friend's father about like how he was very like ardent and insistent that Tom Schultz was making this big mistake, and he had a lot of talent in the field of photo engineering or whatever
Sure.
they did at Polaroid, and tried to dissuade him from it. And Tom left anyway, but it somehow worked out for him.
98% of the time, they probably would have been right to try to get him to not quit his career that he was good at.
So, I mean, I guess to tie it back to what you're doing, Sloan, is just sort of the idea is, damn the critics. So what if you didn't start songwriting until your 40s or whatever? Fuck them.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're going to be as massive as Boston was in 1979 or whatever year it was, but I will say that my friend's boss actually about a year or two later quit Polaroid as well to start his own business, which then failed.
I thought it was going to be his own band.
No, that would have been pretty cool.
I think it's very interesting. I didn't know that story about that guy from Boston, but to me, the reason that those records are so good is that there is a repeat quality, like somebody who maybe was an engineer at a Kodak trying to get like the most pristine picture of a sound,
Sure.
So it's like developing it and developing it and developing it, and like because those records sound so incredible. So I do think there is something to that. And to also bring it back to Sloan, again, like I was saying before, how many people would have 1,000 recordings before they ever start to make their own recording at home? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's kind of the same thing, It's like you don't know that you're honing a craft in an art form when you haven't even started making the art form yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you were.
Well, just to
Yeah.
talk more about Boston, not that I'm a huge Boston fan, but I know a lot about them for some reason. I guess it's just growing up on classic rock radio. But Tom Scholz, he started not as a musician. He started as a guy who was just tinkering around with electronics in his garage and built like recording equipment. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to learn how to play guitar so I can figure out how to use all this stuff." And
Yeah.
developed all his effects and built mixing equipment and all that to develop the sound. It's just interesting. It's like going about it completely backwards, and it reminds me of you, Sloan, talking about how you start with the words. I know a lot of other people do that too. It boggles my brain. I don't understand how people do that. But apparently it works for you and it works for others. It is, I guess you are sort of the bizarro, weird doppelganger for Tom Scholes of Boston.
And to put it back to a dating thing, when I was a freshman in high school, I went on a date with this senior. She asked what I wanted to do, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to go to Worthington, Minnesota," which was about 20 miles away, because they had like a little record store there, with like the tall CD cases and the boxes and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I bought Boston's debut album on vinyl at that record store on that date. So
Nice.
there it is. There's the complete turnaround.
Did you get a second date?
I think I mean I was friends with her. I don't think love was in the air.
Well, I just wondered if she went and told her friends, he bought Boston, or she was like, he bought Boston.
Well, no, man, you got to understand. This is Patrick we're talking about. The question is, did she get a second date?
Oh no. No, I think because she was a senior and I was a freshman, I think it was
There was a power dynamic in play there.
well, I mean, I got a ride to go to a record store,
Yes, you did.
I think our goals in the relationship were different, maybe.
Different.
She wanted a date to prom and I wanted a ride to a record store, so I don't know. I don't know if it was gonna work.
Yep. That sounds right to me.
And here we are today. So
Yes.
middle-aged man looking for love. But that's so cool that you're continuing to do it, and you were talking about only 5 years ago, kind of that you were making your first record, and now you're on to multiple, like a single, an EP, and now you have another full-length record in the belt. For the people listening, when do you think that the full length will be out? I know this will probably come out around the time maybe the EP. The EP comes out in a month. We're recording this in October, but I
Yeah,
just saw that the EP is coming out in early November.
that's right. And November 7th is when the EP comes out. And I think somewhere around there where is when we announced the LP, but Q1.
Q1. I like
Yeah.
it.
All right.
Look at that. Record industry folks, that means between January and March
Yeah.
of 2026.
Yeah, that one is so the EPs we did lathe cut vinyl. Just did an edition of 40 copies on that. That seemed like enough for now. And then
I've got mine ordered. I can't wait to get it in.
I can't wait to ship it to you. And I hopefully and I'm gonna hopefully get those before release date and get those out. So
But hey, remember, hold on to one for us for the show if you could.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. The LP will be traditionally a traditional press, and that's an edition of 100, which is sort of the breaking point. If you were to try to traditionally press fewer than 100 records, you wouldn't be saving any money anyway. So
Right.
Well, it's so cool that you're doing it. So the world is better for it. So well done.
Doing it well.
thanks, guys.
She represents Queens. I was raised out in Brooklyn.
Wow, an LL Cool J reference.
Yes. I'm sorry.
I didn't know that obscure, maybe not that obscure funk song from the early '80s, but I got Matthew's LL Cool J reference.
Yep.
There's something particular about there's a genre of skating rink, and it's probably not what you should call it, but And I'd have to do a little research to come up with some other examples, but there were always some songs that did particularly well. I mean, I Love Rock and Roll was crossover skating rink, right? So, I mean, that was big on the radio, it was big everywhere. But there were some songs that in the 80s you only seemed to hear in the skating rink.
Or at Rudy's friend's house.
No, his car.
Exactly.
His car in the parking lot after getting a what is it? I remember still vividly when Dairy Queen first introduced the Blizzard.
Okay.
And getting that with my friend. 'Cause before that, I was into, I guess, a cherry Mr. Misty thing was my kind of my go-to. Just sitting there in his car and us just BSing about whatever and listening to whatever singles he had. So that was one of them.
Wow.
I listened to it quite a bit. So
What years would that have been?
this was mid '80s, mid to late '80s.
So Oreo.
Actually, initially I was a Heath Bar Crunch
Okay.
guy initially, and then later transitioned to Oreo. I became a vegetarian in high school, and so the Oreo factor was a consideration.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, good work making this EP, Sloan.
Don't bother wearing seatbelts. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode, Freed from Behind a Paywall. We'll be talking The Rose Explodes with Dreamboat. Until then, don't forget about our $1 Patreon that makes you eligible for our many giveaways and helps us keep the proverbial lights on. And oh yeah, don't forget to do what brings you joy and fulfillment. And maybe listen to some great music too.